Well, I handle the prop gun, and I know how it works. I've never fired a prop gun, but I understand how it works.
You've seen a prop gun fired, though, correct?
Have I seen one fire in person? No.
You've seen a prop gun either fired in person, in a video.
Oh, in a video or a movie? Yeah, of course, yeah.
And you would agree that a prop gun, it cannot fire an actual projectile, agree?
That's correct.
And would you also agree that because it can't fire a projectile, it has no ability to, for instance, to protect somebody if the other guy has a real gun? Would you agree?
I'm sorry, can you ask that a different way, please?
So, let's say you pull out a prop gun. There's no bullet that can be fired from that prop gun. And someone in response pulls out a real gun. You would agree, real gun versus prop gun, not good for the person who has a prop gun, agree?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
You understand that in this case, you have said that the defendant was possessing the prop gun because he had been advised by you and a security person as a result of home invasions and stalking and a violent situation where he's been stabbed to carry a prop gun, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree, I want to give you the following scenario. An individual has a prop gun in their possession. Somebody threatens them. The person who has the prop gun takes out that prop gun. Would you agree, Mr. Levin, that in such a scenario, if the individual they pull the prop gun on, at that point in time, if that person does not know it's a prop gun, that when the individual pulling the prop gun is pulling it out, if the other person has a real gun, the person prop gun is going to be in trouble. Would you agree?
Objection, Your Honor. With respect to
Okay. If someone's got a prop gun and they run up against somebody with a real gun, and that person with the real gun sees that prop gun being pulled on them, you would agree that in that situation, based on what you know about firearms, that the person with the prop gun is likely going to get shot.
objection, same one.
I want to give you a scenario, sir. You carry firearms, correct?
That's not correct. I do not carry, I'm not licensed to carry a firearm in public.
You're in your house. You're in your home. You have multiple firearms, correct?
Correct.
Somebody comes in that you don't know, and they have a prop gun. But you don't know it's a prop gun. They just pull a gun on you. Would you agree, sir, that when someone pulls a gun on you, you're going to treat that as if it is a real firearm?
I mean, it kind of, it depends on like this. There's other factors in the scenario that I would need to like know. I can't just really speak on that just like that.
So you're in your house and someone is coming in, an intruder, and you don't know them, and they have a gun in their hand that looks like a real firearm. And you're saying, I don't know if I would consider it a real firearm. Might be a prop gun. Is that your testimony?
Well, no, I'm saying there's other factors that would be in it. If someone came into my home and was pointing a gun at me, and I believed it to be a real gun, most likely I would comply with what they wanted. Because if I thought it was a real gun, I went to go pull out a gun, in the motion of me trying to pull a gun out, they would possibly gun me down.
And would you agree that if somebody is pulling a gun, and you don't know in advance that it is definitely a prop gun, you're going to assume it's a real gun, correct?
Yes.
Now, your testimony is that the defendant was advised that he should be carrying a prop gun, not to protect himself against individuals who knew that he carried a prop gun, but to protect himself against individuals he did not know, like home invaders, stalkers, violent people, correct?
It was just to fight off any type of violence that could come from, not any specific.
And when you say fight off,
Deter from violence.
meaning pull a fake gun out of your pocket.
Lower the volume.
Pull a fake gun out of your pocket. And that's what you mean by fighting off?
I mean, it was there to deter violence. So if he was in a situation where he was going to be harmed, it could be there something possibly to calm things down and safely get him out of a bad situation.
Would you agree that just as likely would be you pull that prop gun and the person you pull it on pulls a real gun and shoots you?
I can't speak on that. I mean, it's...
All right. Let me ask you this, sir. It's your position that everybody around the defendant knew that he carried a prop gun, correct?
His close friends, yes.
And you have heard testimony that Relli was aware that he carried a prop gun, correct?
I didn't hear any other testimony.
I want you to assume that there's been testimony in this case by the defense that Relli was aware that it was a prop gun that the defendant was carrying. I want you to assume that. Would you agree that if Relli knew that the gun was a prop gun, that it would not offer any deterrent if it were pulled on him because he would know it was fake?
I can't speak to his state of mind in the situation.
Listen to me. I'm not asking you, I'm saying anybody. I want you to assume for a moment, I'll give you, do it in hypothetical terms, all right? I want you to assume that the individual who is pulling the prop gun is pulling it against somebody who knows that it is a prop gun. Would you agree that the only value of the prop gun is if you could scare or intimidate somebody into thinking that it is real?
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
Objection, Your Honor, it's also the state of mind of another.
That's not even a legal objection.
Right, speculation.
He said he's a...
Read back the question. Listen to me, I'm not asking you, I'm saying anybody. I want you to assume for a moment, I'll do it in hypothetical terms, all right? I want you to assume that the individual who is pulling the prop gun is pulling it against somebody who knows that it is a prop gun. Would you believe that? Would you agree that the only value of the prop gun is if you can scare or intimidate somebody into thinking that it is real?
Speculation.
Would you agree, Mr. Levin, that if an individual understands that a fake gun you're pulling is fake and not real, then that gun doesn't have any value for deterrence?
Objection, same objection. Same way.
So, there's been testimony in this case by the defense that, again, Relli was aware that this was a prop gun. Are you aware that the defense in this case, Mr. Levin, is that the defendant pulled the prop gun on Relli to stop him from attacking Hills? Are you aware that that's the defense?
Yes.
Okay, and my question is, given your knowledge of firearms and given your advice to the defendant about carrying a prop gun, would you agree that if Relli knows it is a prop gun, that the theory that you have raised about why the defendant is carrying a prop gun doesn't work?
Objection, Your Honor, statements before speculation.
Overruled. That's phrased, overruled.
Well, no. So the prop gun, like I said, it makes a loud noise, so that's going to draw attention and possibly draw police to come. So if he's beating up Ills and nothing is going, and he's not stopping, nothing's stopping him, that loud noise is going to draw a lot of attention from all people around, and it's going to help deter the situation.
Would you agree that if a prop gun is used, that there is no reason for the person pulling the prop gun to aim the gun down or to fire, quote, a warning shot, because in the end the gun can't fire a shot, period? Would you agree?
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
You testify, you understand how a prop gun works, correct?
Yes.
Can you fire a warning shot with a prop gun?
Well, I think they're kind of all warning shots. There's no actual shot bullet that comes out, no projectile.
So you would agree that you can't fire a warning shot with a prop gun because you can't fire a shot, period. All you can do is fire off the prop gun and have it make noise. Would you agree?
That's correct. It doesn't fire a projectile.
Would you agree that if you have a real gun with bullets, and you point it at somebody, and you pull the trigger, that there is a likelihood that that person gets shot? Would you agree?
With an actual firearm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you agree that the idea of a warning shot with a real firearm is that you are pointing the gun in a direction and pulling the trigger where no one is going to be hit, so as to warn the individual, hey, I've got this gun, and if you don't stop what you're doing, I'm going to shoot you. Would you agree?
Objection, speculation, sustained.
Would you agree, Mr. Levin, that in firing a shot with a prop gun, that there would be no reason to aim the gun towards the ground because the gun can't fire anything?
Objection, speculation.
Where's the speculation?
Sustained.
On speculation?
Yes. You want to argue with me?
I'd like to broach.
No.
Your Honor, I'm trying to do a very important area, and I'm not understanding.
What this witness thinks is the efficacy of a prop gun versus a real gun. What his opinion is irrelevant. Go on to another
Just
subject.
so clear, I'm doing it for his credibility in front of the jury, which is relevant.
You've already touched on it enough. Go on to something else.
Have you seen the video involving this incident?
I saw the one that was on TMZ when he first got arrested, whenever it was posted.
So how many times have you seen the video?
Maybe twice.
You're saying in 3+ years since this incident, involving your brother, one of your best friends, a man you work for, that you have only looked at the video of this charged crime a couple of times.
Yes.
In that video, would you agree, I can show it to you, in that video, would you agree that between shots that the defendant is running around with his gun out and appears to be looking for a line of fire to hit the victim?
Objection, irrelevant. Sustained.
You've given testimony about the current location of the prop gun and how you went to New York and who you gave it to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That wasn't in the statement that you reviewed with 12 bullet points, was it?
The one that you showed me with the 9 bullet points earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't in there, correct.
And it's your testimony, though, that you told the defense about this back in August of 2024.
Yes.
And the individual that you returned the gun to, are they alive?
They are. I gave you the info earlier. Well, we talked about it earlier. Yeah.
I'm just saying, they're alive.
That's correct, yes.
Do you know where that gun is today?
Specifically, no. Like I said, when I went to New York, I gave it back to him.
Well, so since you became involved, since you've known about where that gun went, since you gave it back, at some point in time, did you become aware that, you know what, the fact that it's a prop gun is important in this case?
Yes.
And you understand that if it's a prop gun, the defendant cannot be guilty of the charges because it's not a real gun. You understand that, correct?
That's correct. It's a problem.
So what efforts did you make in the last 3 years to try to get that prop gun back so that you could demonstrate, hey, my brother, he didn't do this crime? Did you make any efforts?
Yeah, I asked the co-director if he had it still, and he doesn't.
When did you ask him?
Specifically, I don't remember, sir.
Now, isn't it true, sir, that you testified you returned it in January of 2022?
That's correct, yes.
Did it seem strange to you that you were returning a gun?
A prop gun.
Huh?
A prop gun?
Is a prop gun a gun?
It's a prop gun.
So when I say gun, you don't need to correct me.
Okay.
When you returned the gun in January of 2022, by that time, you were aware that your friend Rocky was potentially going to be getting in some trouble as it relates to that incident, correct?
No, I was not aware of that.
So, but you certainly knew 3 months later in April, correct?
Yes, when he got arrested, I knew he was.
And you knew that day, as soon as you heard about it, you knew, oh my God, I've got information, that gun's not real, correct? You knew that day.
Yes.
Did you go get the gun?
I was in LA. The gun, like I said, I gave it to the director in New York in January.
Did you make an effort to try to get the gun?
I told you I contacted him to see if he still had it.
When did you contact him?
And again, I don't recall the exact date, sir. This is 3 years ago.
Isn't it true, sir, that you didn't contact him for more than a year?
Sir, to be honest, I don't know the exact date I contacted him.
Well, let me ask you something, sir. Wouldn't you have instantly, the day you heard about the defendant getting arrested, wouldn't you have jumped on a plane to get back there and find that prop gun that would have gotten your brother out of the trouble that he was in? Wouldn't you have done it?
I contacted the director. I don't know exactly when to see if he had it. He doesn't have it anymore.
And so you just did you ask him what he did with it?
Yes.
Did you investigate further once he told you?
No, I didn't. I mean, he doesn't have it anymore. I don't know which one to say.
Did you go to the police and tell them what you knew?
No.
Did you go to the prosecution and tell them what you knew?
No.
You're aware that he had a preliminary hearing in November of 2023. You're aware of that preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
You knew it was publicized in the media, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You knew that, based at that time, that your brother, your close friend, could not have committed this crime because it wasn't a real gun, and you didn't do anything, did you?
I knew it was a prop gun.
Does you yourself, knowing it's a prop gun, does that help your brother with his legal problem if you don't tell anybody?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
You said you knew it was a prop gun.
Yes.
My question is, you understand the police, the prosecution, and the court needs to understand it's a prop gun in order for you to help him, right?
Yeah. Nobody contacted me from the police or the courts. Nobody contacted me until like 2 weeks ago about the police or the
Wait,
courts.
would you, sir, have had every incentive, every motive, every desire to contact the police and the prosecution to tell them, hey, my buddy, my close friend, my brother Rocky is innocent. That was a fake gun. Wouldn't you have had every motivation to do that?
I knew that this was going to court, and I knew I would have my time to speak about it here to the jury.
Well, so you decided you would wait, have your brother held to answer, have him brought to trial in front of 12 jurors, rather than simply going to the police and prosecutors and telling them, hey, listen, that was a fake gun. Is that your testimony?
Like I said, I knew that this case was going to trial, and I would have my opportunity to speak here in front of the jury and explain it.
I want to ask you again.
Okay.
Did you understand that by not coming forward, that you were putting your brother, your best friend, in more legal jeopardy? Did you understand that?
No, I didn't. I didn't understand that. I didn't. No.
So, you were present on April 20th, 2022, when a search warrant was served at Mr. Mayers' residence, correct?
I wasn't present when it was served, but I was there during the search, yes.
You were there when they were doing the search, correct?
Correct, yes.
The police, correct?
Yes.
The police, the detectives handling this case, correct?
Correct.
That man seated right in the back. Can you stand up for me, detective? You saw him at the defendant's house, correct?
That's correct.
I'm pointing the eye on this case. Did you walk up to him and say to him, detective, it was a prop gun. That's not right. He didn't do anything. Did you tell the detective that?
At that time, I didn't know any details of the case. I just got a phone call saying that there was a search warrant being done at his house, and I should go over there to just be there. I wasn't aware of any of the details of the case. This was early in the morning. I was just getting out of bed. I didn't know that he was being charged for. I didn't know what he was being charged for.
Didn't you already testify, sir, that you had talked to Rocky the day after the incident happened and you knew that he had used a prop gun?
Correct.
So you're telling me that when the detectives are showing up, serving a search warrant, that you had no idea what it was related to?
I didn't know that this was going to be. It was going to a criminal case until that day.
So when it was that day and the detective is there, you wouldn't have had to call him, you wouldn't have had to go down there. He's right there, and you could have told him it was a prop gun. You could have done that, correct?
I didn't know the details of everything that was going on at that time, sir. I didn't know what was.
Listen to my question. Could you have told the detective on that day it was a prop gun, it wasn't real? Could you have done that?
When I was speaking to the detective,
Yes.
I could have told him, but I didn't have any details of what was going on, sir. It wasn't at that time. I
Most
didn't
is
know.
right, everything after yes. Did you tell him it was a prop gun?
Did I tell him it was a prop gun on that day?
Yes.
No.
Now, you were also aware, on that day, you were aware that they collected evidence, correct? You were there supporting your friend, is that right?
I was aware they collected evidence.
By the way, you said you got called when they were serving the search warrant. Who called you?
It was somebody that was on the plane with him. I can't remember exactly who it was that day.
Well, so
It was like 7 in the morning. I was just waking up to just, hey, you have to go over to Rocky's house. They're going to search the house. And I just jumped in my car and I didn't ask questions. I just went.
why would you have to go over to Rocky's house when you're serving a search warrant at Rocky's for something that doesn't involve you?
Well, I've worked with him for a long time, and I actually sometimes manage his property, so I'm able to get access to the house. I have keys, so I could have opened the door instead of them busting the gate open and running the door down. I mean, and if they needed anything in there, I was just there. We have nothing to hide, so I was there if they needed anything. Even at one point, they needed to get into a safe that I'm so sorry.
What's that?
I'm so sorry.
Slow it down.
I'll slow it down. I apologize.
Slow it down.
So, you go over to the house, and you are there when they are collecting guns, correct?
I was outside the whole time, so I didn't see exactly what they were collecting.
You became aware on that day or shortly thereafter that detectives did not find a prop gun, correct?
Well, yeah, there was no prop gun in the house.
So how did you know there was no prop gun in the house?
Because on January of that year, I brought it back to New York so I could testify.
How did you know there was no other prop gun in the house?
There could have been another prop gun in the house. I didn't know. I know that prop gun was back in New York.
Okay, so you also know that the detectives recovered that Glock 43 9mm magazine, correct?
Yes, I know now they did. Correct.
And it's your testimony that that was actually your magazine. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And it's your testimony that even though you do not own a Glock 43, that you bought a 380, correct?
I bought a Glock 42, yes.
Which is a 380,
380 caliber,
correct?
that's correct.
380 cannot fire 9mm rounds, correct?
That's correct.
And your testimony is that when you bought it, you somehow inadvertently got the wrong magazine. Is that right?
I mistakenly bought the wrong magazine. Correct.
And you didn't realize it was the wrong magazine until literally the day you went over to Rocky's house to end up in preparation for going to the shooting range, correct?
That's correct.
And because you did not know that it was anything other than a 380, right, a Glock 42 magazine that fired 380 caliber ammunition, correct? You didn't find that out until you go to the house and you're like, oh my God, this is the wrong gun. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you actually try to put it inside of your Glock 42 to 380?
No, what I was trying to do is I was trying to load it, and I noticed when I put the 380 ammunition in, it was a little too small. It wasn't fitting correctly.
So, Mr. Levin, if you were only using 380 ammunition, and if you're trying to put 380 ammunition, how is it that that magazine was full of 9mm ammunition?
I also own a Smith & Wesson M&P 9, which is 9mm. I brought both of my handguns that day, so I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm and my, I'm so sorry, I'm going too fast. I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm and my Glock 42 magazines with 380. So I had both ammunitions on that day.
Now, you're well aware that a Glock magazine looks nothing like a Smith & Wesson magazine, correct?
Yeah, correct.
They look nothing alike, correct?
That's correct.
So my question is, how is it that that Glock magazine, which you thought was to hold .380 ammunition, ended up being loaded with 9mm ammunition? How did that happen?
When I realized the 380 didn't fit, I tried the 9mm in there, and it fit. And then I further inspected it and realized it was a 43 magazine.
So, by the way, so you're telling me you then needed to figure out what kind of magazine it was. And so you decided to put a 9mm round inside the magazine, correct?
Yes.
So, sir, as soon as you put one 9mm round in the magazine, you know it's not for a 380. Why is it fully loaded with approximately 6 rounds of ammunition? A full Glock 43 magazine, full of 9mm ammo.
Because after we realized we weren't going to the gun range, and I packed everything up, I was just fidgeting with it. At that time, I had just first got guns, and sometimes I would sit there and I would load it and unload magazines just fidgeting around.
So, you loaded a magazine for a gun you didn't have, with ammunition you didn't know went into it, and then when it fit, you fully loaded it all the way. Is that your testimony?
Yes,
Because you were, quote, fidgeting. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Objection, argument. Sustain.
Isn't it true, sir, that this information about the Glock 43 magazine is what is called a lie? That it never happened, that you never took over a Glock 43 magazine there, that you never tried to load it with 380 ammunition, and then in fact,
Compound. It's really compound.
when the objection was,
Well, he's in the middle of arguing that it's argumentative. There are a number of questions that you're asking. So you're asking question after question after question. So why don't you limit it to one question at a time?
I'm trying to, in total, Your Honor, because I believe it would go to the impeachment of the witness, but I'll take it one at a time and then I'll do the result. So, your testimony. I want to be clear. Let me back up for a second. When you bought a Glock before, you bought a Glock 42, correct?
That's correct.
You agree that when you buy a new Glock, it always comes with 2 magazines, correct?
I didn't buy it new, I bought it used. I bought it secondhand from somebody.
You ever bought a new weapon?
Brand new? No. All of my firearms were bought through secondhand.
When you buy them secondhand, sir, wouldn't you agree? I assume when you bought your 380 secondhand, it came with 2 magazines, correct?
I don't believe so. It just came with one.
You said you know a lot about firearms, correct?
Yeah, I'm knowledgeable.
Is it your testimony that in your experience, that when you buy a new firearm, that generally speaking, that firearm only comes with 1 magazine?
Objection irrelevant. Sustain.
Sir, isn't it true that the reason that 9mm magazine was at the defendant's house was because he had a 9mm firearm, a Glock 43, that he used in this shooting of Relli, and that was simply the second magazine that he forgot to get rid of? Isn't that what happened, sir?
No.
As a firearms owner in California, you would agree that it is very difficult, and it has been difficult, to get ammunition in California since 2019. Would you agree?
Yeah, in 2020, I know there was a shortage and prices were going up, but it was difficult at some points, correct?
Not only a shortage, but you would agree that you have to actually, that at the time of this offense in 2021, you would agree you needed approval from the Department of Justice, as well as a California driver's license or a California ID and a local address to purchase ammunition in California, correct?
I don't know about approval, but whenever I bought ammunition, all I had to do is show my driver's license. So that was a California driver's license with an address, yes.
So would you agree that if you don't have, in your experience, if you don't have a California driver's license or a California address, you're just going in to a gun shop to try to get ammunition, then in your experience, you can't do it in California?
I believe so, yeah. That's what I understand, or
Yeah.
at least then, yes.
Do you know a place to buy ammunition near Hollywood on a Saturday evening after 10 p.m.?
No, I don't know any places.
Who is ASAP Ills?
ASAP Ills is a member of the ASAP group collective.
When's the last time you saw him?
Last year at some point, I want to say maybe November, September. I can't remember the exact date.
When's the last time you had any contact with him? Person, text, you tried to reach him? When's the last time?
Probably around the time I saw him.
Did he travel with you guys on tour to Bangkok?
No, he did not.
You guys were all friends at the time of the incident in November 2021. You, the defendant, 12, and Ills, right?
Yes, correct.
And you would say close friends, correct?
Yeah.
You went to Complex Con on November 7th, correct?
Yes, I did.
And did you notice any injuries on Ills?
Not that I can see.
What do you think? You know Relli, correct?
Yes.
Would you describe Relli in terms of his physical strength as, kind of a weakling, medium, or pretty strong dude?
No, I would consider him pretty strong.
And I want you to assume that he had punched somebody with a fist in their face area 3 times. Knowing Relli as you do, would you expect that an individual will receive injuries from that, since you know Relli?
Not necessarily. I can't say that. I've seen boxers before get punched in the face multiple times and look fine. Like, I guess it just depends on the person.
You didn't see Ills with any injuries, though, the night of November 7th, did you?
I wasn't studying his face, but I didn't see any visible injuries. Injuries.
If he would have been bleeding, do you think you would have seen that?
Bleeding that day? Or bleeding that day?
Bleeding.
Objection.
Yes. If he would have been bleeding on November 7th,
He's going to clarify.
if he would have been bleeding on November 7th, do you think you would have seen it?
Not necessarily.